And speaking of Buckeyes, thought we would try to reach out to Adam Jardy. Does a great job as the beat reporter of the Ohio State men's basketball team. They got a crucial win at home last night against Southern Cal, and I think we're on the good side of the bubble. Maybe. We'll find out. Let's bring in Adam Jardy from the Columbus Dispatch here on the Sam Bourquin Show. Adam, good afternoon. How you doing today, partner?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I gotta be full honesty here. We had a little discussion on the show yesterday or the day before about Ohio State men's basketball and, you know, the trials and tribulations and the ups and the downs. And then a story popped out yesterday that you could get in for last night for $7 with fees included. And I thought, oh, my God, we have reached rock bottom here. I am angry. I said, I'm going to reach out to Adam. We're going to talk Ohio State and see if we can get this figured out. Then they go and they win the game last night. They drew a little bit more, almost 12,000 in the building last evening. And I thought, well, okay, we'll make this a positive conversation here. And how big of a win was that last night for the Buckeye basketball team as we jog our way through the month of February?
I mean, I think certainly the win itself was important. I think equally important was just not taking a loss in that game because, like, beating USC ultimately isn't going to be the thing that would put them in the tournament, but losing to them could have been the thing that would keep them out at this point. It's a team that very similar metrics, very similar in the standings, very similar in like all the predictive stuff that would tell you who will and will not make the tournament. And, you know, at the end of the day, like if there are 10 Big Ten teams that are fighting to get into the NCAA tournament, or if 10 Big Ten teams get in, it might be between Ohio State and USC for like one of the last two spots.
Yeah.
So when you have an opportunity like that head to head against a team that is in very similar bubble situation, like you have to take advantage of that. And having the Trojans at the Schottenstein Center, like you got them on your home court, like that was a game Ohio State needed to win to keep its hopes alive. So still work to do, but certainly in a much better spot than if they'd have lost yesterday.
No doubt. It was a weird game. SC goes up early. Yes. Ohio State fights back. They get a lead. Here come the Trojans. It had to hold on pretty much down to the last minute or so in that 89-82 win. Bruce Thornton, 21 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals. I mean, I don't know where they'd be without that young man. If you could, Adam, the specialty of Bruce Thornton and what he means to this program.
Boy, that would take us a while to, I think, really dive into. I mean, like with him, what I consistently come back to is like, I mean, you and I have talked about this for the last several years where like it's a transient sport now. Like people don't stay at a school for more than a year or 2 years. And people certainly don't stay when they're high level contributors. Like people move on. That's what college athletics has become. And I think, you know, for a guy in this era to spend 4 years at one school and to be a high level contributor all 4 years, I mean, I don't know that we'll ever see another Bruce Thornton under this current sort of landscape that we're in right now. I mean, not only did he have all those numbers, like you mentioned last night, you know, he scored the last 9 points of the game and helped put the Trojans away. You know, he got the free throw line, hit his free throws, you know, did the things that you expect a senior, you know, captain leader to do for a team. He also passed Kelvin Ramsey for 5th place all time in the career scoring list at Ohio State. I mean, he's 40 points right now behind Will Buford and Jerry Lucas are both tied for 3rd. So, like, the fact that Ohio State at the end of the season is going to be saying goodbye to the first 4-time captain in program history and potentially the all-time leading scorer. I mean, that is very much like in the realm of possibilities for Bruce Thornton. It's significant, and what he's meant to the program and all the things that he's done in these 4 years are incredibly impactful. And I don't know what this would look like without him. I can't really even close my eyes and picture it right now.
You know, that you brought up those 2 names. Gosh, I grew up, I was just a kid. I remember watching Kelvin Ramsey play over at St. John under Eldon Miller. And I looked and said, okay, I'm going to look at the top 10 here. And Deshaun Thomas at 10, you talk Jay Burson at 9, Jimmy Jackson at 8, Michael Redd 7, Kelvin at 6, Bruce Thornton now 5, and then William Buford, Jerry Lucas, Herb Williams, and then Dennis Hobson. That is a who's who of college basketball right there.
Man, yeah, and it was neat last night. Post game, like Jay Diebler talked about that a little bit, and just the fact that like he would like the fans to also like take some appreciation for the names that he is passing.
Yeah.
And when you think about like who some of these guys are and how impactful they've been to Ohio State basketball, like yeah, there's some significant names on this list that Bruce is going past, and I do think it is pretty cool to like take a moment and kind of reflect on who some of these dudes are and how amazing their careers ended up becoming. Because yeah, these aren't just, you know, Joe basketball player. Like there's some legends that are on this list, and Bruce Thornton is putting his name right there with all of them.
No doubt. Adam Jardy is our guest, beat reporter for the Buckeye basketball team from the Columbus Dispatch, taking some time here with us on 1310 WDPN. We mentioned Bruce, of course, a team effort last night. Bobley goes 13-3. Royal 19-7, Bynum 11-3, Tilley 9-2, but he only played 22 minutes last night. Outside of Bruce Thornton, who was the go-getter last night for Ohio State when they needed him most?
Devin Royal. I thought this was his most impactful game he's played in a little while, his most consistent game. He had 7 rebounds. They were all defensive rebounds. You know, just was effective on the glass. They talked so much about like aggression and physicality and defensive rebounding, especially coming out of that Michigan loss. And I thought Devin really responded in a big way and looked like the player that, you know, we kind of expected him to always look like coming into his junior year. It's been a bit of an adjustment for him, playing a little bit more on the perimeter. But not only did he have the 7 defensive rebounds, but I think he was 8 of 8 from 2-point range. You know, hit a couple mid-range jumpers, was able to draw some contact, get to the line a couple of times. And I just thought played a really significant all-around game. So it wasn't just like, yeah, Bruce had the last 9 points there in the last minute 34, but Bruce and Devin combined for, I think it was like 15 of the last 17 points of the game. So he was big down the stretch. I thought he was impactful on the glass, and, you know, again, kind of showed like how important he is to this team's success. Because when he plays well, everything seems to look a little bit better for Ohio State.
Puff Johnson, 15 minutes last night, scored 8 points. He did get four fouls, but talk about Puff, if you would, and what they're kind of hoping to get out of him the rest of the way.
Well, the first thing they're hoping for is that he does remain with them the rest of the way. His temporary restraining order that allowed him to join the team is, for lack of a better term, being like fully evaluated. It's still a legal process that's playing out, and they should get a final answer sometime early next week. But Puff Johnson spent about 5.5 hours at a Franklin County court on Thursday, like missed shoot around and things like that, because his case was finally being heard. So kind of a wild day for Puff. When he is fully available, and like as he kind of works his way back into things, like, you know, they really believe he's a guy who can make a legitimate difference. And you're talking about someone who a couple years ago played the national championship game for North Carolina,
right,
and played really well. I mean, he's big, he's athletic, he's long. He can shoot, as we saw last night. I mean, he hit one from, I don't know, Bucyrus on a busted play. And they've really praised like his ability to fit in with the team and his ability to, you know, not ruffle feathers, because you're adding a player to the rotation in January and February. Like, not only is this unprecedented, but you really do risk messing up team chemistry. And this is a pretty tight-knit Ohio State team. I've been impressed with how well he has apparently fit in, and he gives them another dimension. He gives them another guy who's been around, who has played at the highest level of the sport, and can be you can reasonably expect daily contributions from him, and that's a step forward for this Ohio State bench.
Adam Jardy is our guest from the Columbus Dispatch. All right, Adam, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 7 games left. There are some tough ones: Virginia, Wisconsin, Sparty. You go to Iowa. Purdue comes to Columbus, at Penn State, home against Indiana. How many do the Buckeyes need to get there to be on the right side of the bubble before the Big Ten tournament?
Well, I think if we assume that they win the Penn State game, because that's the one game left on the resume that, even though it's a road game, it's not going to really move the needle unless you lose it.
Right.
So if Ohio State loses that game, it kind of changes the mathematics of this whole situation. But if we assume that they win that game, because they should, I think they probably need 3 more out of that mix, because most of those are going to be quad 1 opportunities.
Yep.
And oddly enough, Ohio State picked up a quad 1 opportunity last night because Northwestern played Michigan close, and then the win against Northwestern back in December is now a quad 1 win for Ohio State. So the Buckeyes have 1 right now. That could change with the next refreshing of the rankings tomorrow. We'll see. But you would certainly like to remove any doubt. So I think from that mix of those remaining 6 games that aren't Penn State, if you go 3-3, I think you're pretty comfortably in. Anything less than that, and it will certainly be a sweaty palm situation on Selection Sunday.
No doubt. Then you might have to really make a deep run in the Big Ten tournament just to get enough to get you over there. But man, Sparty on the road is going to be a bear. Purdue is going to be tough. Virginia, a rare late non-conference game here at a neutral site. Virginia's a solid program. That's the next big game, right, coming up for Ohio State.
Yeah, and that's a really fascinating one, because you are stepping out of conference for one game here and playing a different style and playing someone that you're not super intimately familiar with, and so it's an interesting opportunity for Ohio State. It's something that the Buckeyes wanted to do this offseason to better prepare themselves for the tournament. And you're seeing some more teams start to do this, like Michigan and Duke are doing it this year. Last year we saw Illinois play Duke, and it did not go well for the Illini. I think it was the biggest loss in program history. They played at Madison Square Garden, and Duke kind of wiped the floor with them. But when we talked to Jake Diebler about this earlier in the week, he said he talked to John Shire and Brad Underwood, and they both swore by it. They thought it was really good for their team to take a high major game out of conference and squeeze it into their league play. And they believe it had significant benefits for their team. So it's actually the story I'm writing for tomorrow at dispatch.com about why they're playing this game. But it's interesting. And I do think, we don't really, I don't know that Ohio State fans or, too many of us up here necessarily have a great idea of what Virginia looks like, because we're so dialed into Big Ten play. So I would assume that probably, maybe that bodes well for Ohio State too, that you're getting a team that it just isn't quite as familiar with you, I guess.
Adam Jardy, our guest beat writer for the Buckeye basketball team, does a great job with the Columbus Dispatch. Check him out on all of his social media platforms as well. For those who are interested, Virginia 21-3. This game is coming up in Nashville, and it's going to be live on Fox. So the pretty big stage for the Buckeyes there. All right, I almost hate to ask this question, but I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't. If things go sideways here, Adam, down the stretch, what do you think the status of Jake Diebler would be?
I guess it would depend on how sideways we're talking here, but I don't believe that they hired him with the expectation that everything was going to go 100 miles an hour perfectly great from day one. That when you do hire a first year coach, there's an inherent learning curve that comes with that. And for as frustrating as maybe it's been that this team hasn't made the tournament here in a while, and I certainly feel that and understand that, they've been, last year they came 1 game short, and this year they're right in the running as well. And certainly Ohio State fans expect more sustained levels of success, and they don't want to just make the tournament. They want to have deep runs, and that is the expectation at Ohio State. But it's also not Jake Diebler's fault that they didn't make it the years before that. And it's not Jake Diebler's fault that the last 10, 13 years have kind of been what they've been. So I do think that they're in a situation where they are behind from an NIL standpoint, significantly behind in the Big Ten. So they've had to sort of make do with that the best that they can. They're in the running to get back to the tournament for the first time, and they've missed it the last 3 years. And they got a McDonald's All-American coming in next year, a strong recruiting class, and really talented players they believe they're going to retain. And so I think it would have to really go sideways for this not to at least get a third year. So that's just kind of where I see it right now. I certainly understand the frustrations and people that want things to be better, especially when you see Michigan dominating the world in basketball.
Yeah, they are.
Like, I understand those frustrations, absolutely. But I also think that, like, you don't commit to a first-year coach and then things are going pretty well. Maybe just you'd like them to be a little better. I don't know that you pull the plug after 2 years.
It'll be interesting, especially with the schedule coming up. If they could, sneak a couple extra out of that, I think that they may be on their way to a good finish here. Hey, safe travels down to Nashville. We'll see if they can get a big W down there, and Adam will be in touch. Always appreciate the time. Thanks, pal.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good to talk to you.
You bet. Adam Jardy, beat writer for the Buckeye basketball team, does an incredible job for the Columbus Dispatch.